All righty, we're ready to go then. Thank you, Andrew. Today is February 15th, 2024. This is our work session. Please ask everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I hope everybody's doing okay today. I'm going to invite Mr. Ben Griffith up. He's with the Quaker Faith, and he's going to give us a blessing today. Welcome.
Welcome. It's good to be here. Good evening. I'm Ben Griffith. I'm with Frankfort Interfaith Council, and I'm a member of the Religious Society of Friends, more commonly known as Quakers. Tonight, when I lead us in prayer, there'll be a couple times when I'll leave a little silence for everybody to reflect and listen to the voice of God. Dear God, we gather this evening to work on the business of the good people of Franklin County. To those gathered here to do this work, bless them with the wisdom to serve others. May we acknowledge thy presence here in each of us and among all of us. You already know our hearts, our minds, and our needs. Give us the courage to listen to you. Kentucky author Wendell Berry once wrote the following prayer to the Holy Spirit. O thou, far off and here, whole and broken, who in necessity and bounty wait, whose truth is light and dark, mute though spoken. By thy wide grace, show us thy narrow gate. Grant these folks wisdom and courage to serve this community, to find thy narrow gate together. We give thanks for these good people who do this work. In thy holy presence, may we all forever abide. Amen.
Thank you very much, Ben. We appreciate it. Thank you. Alrighty, we're going to jump into work session. Ask, is there any public comments? Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to invite Mr. Duke Wilburn up to give us a road department update. Duke, how you doing today?
Doing great. Hey, y'all.
Good. It's a good looking shirt you got on there.
Well, thank you. Last couple of weeks, our crews have been out on the roads doing a lot of tree trimming. Just cutting dead trees and low hanging limbs, that sort of thing. And they've been out Ball Knob, Hart Pike, Benson Valley Road, working in those areas. Been doing a little ditching, some culvert replacement. And we've been running a patch truck just about every day in several districts, so trying to keep up with the little potholes coming. Worked on a few bus turnarounds, trying to help the school board out some on that. And then I think they have some pictures of the progress down at the road department. They're coming along pretty good on the salt barn. Got about 2 more pours on the walls, and then be working on the slab. Hopefully, the early part of next month, the crew's coming in to erect
The hoop
roof.
structure?
Yeah. So, and they started today on the footers for the shop. Hopefully we get our first pour tomorrow on that. Started setting steel on Monday for the storage building. It's coming up really fast. Hopefully get an inspection on that Monday, and then they'll start putting the roof and sides on it. So they're making progress now with the weather helping us out a little.
All
All right, thank you, Duke.
Yes, sir.
Squire Tanner. I was getting ready to open it for questions. Yes, sir. Oh, you're
I
fine?
got a question about the salt barn, the walls. There's a support beam, not beam, but concrete up one side, and they're on the inside.
Yes, sir.
Is that not going to be a problem for loaders?
We're just gonna have to be careful. I'm not sure why they designed it that way. It seems backwards to me, but, you know, that's the way they designed it, and I'm sure there's a reason for it. There's plenty of room in there. There's no reason for us to hit one.
It wouldn't be if I was driving the thing.
But let us be cautious, you know.
Well, I noticed that and really hadn't paid attention to any of the drawings of it being on the inside rather than the outside.
Right.
And it getting in those corners, you know, you're going to be very particular, or they're going to get hit.
We'll
There's
just
no
leave the
question.
salt in there, you know what I mean? Not just,
Well, you could pour something straight across there and keep
Right.
yourself out.
yeah, take the Bobcat in there and clean it up if we need to, or there's several ways of doing it. I'm sure there's an engineering reason for that, but I don't know what it is.
What other questions do we have for Duke? Anybody else? Duke, have you heard anything else on the new, I know Squire Wisman and I were talking about mow trim the other day, and have you heard any updates on when our new one?
Now, the last thing I heard, was gonna be, you know, mid to late summer. So, he thinks maybe it'll come in earlier. It's just a projected time he's got for it. He said they had several units coming in, but they were going to Canada for some reason. Our old mow trim, it's back in the shop again, so the mechanics are working on it, trying to figure out what's wrong with it now. They got part of the rear end tore out of it. So.
Okay.
Let's hope that's not expensive. Well, we're not gonna put a lot of money in it, I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the new one coming, I don't see any reason for that. Hoping it's something simple we can fix and get it back out there.
Good deal. I went down there yesterday and today, and they're moving along. They got a lot of guys down there working, so it's good to see. I think when they get the footer of the big structure poured, I mean, they'll really start moving.
Right.
So, yeah, it's good to see. All righty. Seeing no other questions, Duke, we thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
All righty. We'll go ahead on to the judge's report. We've had several committee meetings since the last fiscal court on January 24th. So I'm going to recap some before I do, and I see the sheriff and Ron here. We want to go ahead, and today is National SRO Day. So we want to acknowledge all the school resource officers that we have here in Franklin County. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department and the school system for being able to put individuals in our school to not just keep our children safe, but to help mentor our kids. So I just want to personally say thank you to everybody that's involved in that, and we should all be proud of that. I know the fiscal court was behind it the whole time also, supporting that decision. So I'm going to open it up. If anybody has anything they want to say about SROs, you're more than welcome to. Go ahead, Squire.
I see, I work in school, I see the SRO every day. It's not just a safety and security presence, it's the community policing, it's the involvement, the mentorship, having students and teachers and folks seeing that they're regular people right beside them. They're not to be scared of them or worried about them. They're just there to help. And they help do so many other things that's not in their purview for their job description. And they're just an asset that has just blessed the school and every school that they're in. And I want to thank them for it. We really appreciate it.
All righty, thank you. On January 29th, we had a Solid Waste Committee meeting. Allie discussed her education campaign initiatives, and where she's been visiting middle schools and discussing recycling and plastic waste and composting with kids and things like that. So that's, I think we're all extremely glad that she's back in the schools.
Judge, can I mention something on that real quick?
Okay.
I just wanted to invite, some of that committee is going to see Shelbyville's recycling and trash center tomorrow morning. If anybody would like to go, we'd be welcome you to join us, kind of continuing looking at some of the regional facilities and how other counties are doing things that we can maybe do better. So,
Perfect, yep. Thank you, Squire. Squire Tracy.
Thanks, Judge. When you reference the solid waste committee, is that task force that's been together for, or are they still together?
They're still together. The task force meets quarterly, but then the committee itself meets about monthly. So the task force is still involved. It's kind of like we run things by them. They have a lot of good ideas and things like that, and the committee is more the ones that are kind of getting the things done.
Thank you.
Alrighty, after that, Deputy Jack Kennedy attended Norton's Healthcare ribbon cutting on February 2nd. It's a big deal having Norton's Healthcare in our community. They've renovated a 34,000 square foot facility. We couldn't be happier. The new space represents a $12 million investment into our community. So we welcome them, and we are all very happy that Norton's Healthcare is here in Franklin County. Benson Valley landfill tour. Allie and myself went out there. We had a judge from Trimble County who was interested in it, so we went out there, looked at their facility, that new gas facility. I think it was a $45 million investment where they're capturing the gas and actually putting it back in the pipeline and sending it to Louisville. So, and they were super helpful. They talked to Allie and said if they need help or sponsorship to get into schools about recycling, things like that, they're willing to help. So it was a very good tour. Jail Force Committee met on February 12th. We discussed a lot of maintenance issues at the jail. Ron White, our current jailer, kind of brought things up and updates that are being made at the jail, and I think we should all be proud of the direction our county jail is moving towards. On Monday, we had a Parks Committee to kind of get an update from the Hitchcock Group as long as Williams Architects. We kind of went over just preliminary stuff on the park plan, things they were thinking, directions they were going, just some odds and ends as far as questions to make sure we were all on the same page. So that was a very good committee. And then also on February 7th, the Administrative Services met to discuss some different code, text amendments, language, and things like that. I'm actually going to ask Robert to come up here for a minute because he can explain it better than I can. I know he's been getting input from, the historian at the city, the state preservation people, some draft language, trying to craft a kind of a new text amendment language. Robert, I'm going to go ahead and let you. I know the next scheduled meeting is March 5th, so we're working towards that. So if you don't mind, kind of just fill the court in on what that is. I know a couple people on here were at that meeting, so they know what it is, but can you at least talk to the court about the other?
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Good evening, court. So throughout the comprehensive plan update process, the advisory committee has expressed interest in the county preserving elements and features within the county that make Franklin County unique. And since the county does not have a historic overlay regulation or anything, it was discussed, and I came back with draft language for what we're referring to as a heritage district overlay. And so the intent of that is to preserve the land or the structure or whatever makes it unique, whether it be for a local heritage, a state recognized issue, or even a national. So, for instance, if you had a farm where Abraham Lincoln took a nap, then, it could be something that you're like, all right, if there's a structure there, yes, then it's unique and it should be recognized and preserved. But also, given the opportunity to provide the opportunity for tourism or maybe a museum or things of that nature. And so it's a preservation tool, but yet it has the potential of offering other opportunities to that land. So it was well received by the advisory committee. Everyone fully supports it. Then presented it to the Administrative Services Committee, and in order to keep this moving, language would actually need to be prepared and presented to the Planning Commission to actually get it into the record so it can come back to the fiscal court for consideration to be adopted either into the zoning ordinance or the development regs or whatever it's appropriate to go in. But in order to do that, I need direction on the record from the court to proceed with that, because it will be a public hearing before the planning commission. So it's a very lengthy process. It's just like going through a zone change. But if this is something that the court is interested in my office pursuing, then at some point I would, whether it be tonight or whenever, I would need direction from the court to do so in accordance with the requirements in KRS Chapter 100.
So you need us to kind of just talk right now as far as if we're okay with you working on this to do some preliminary work to see if it goes somewhere
Well, I guess more specifically to present
to the planning commission.
to the planning commission so I can get the official process started.
Right. Thoughts? Oh, I'm sorry, Squire Tracy.
Good. Thanks, Judge. Robert, so just one quick question. So what you're saying is you're wanting authorization to be responsible for drafting up the language for this?
Yes.
Let's say an owner of a farm comes back, would it come in front of your office to whether, that's something that I agree with or not agree with? I guess I'm just looking, could there potentially be a conflict of interest? You're writing it, and then all of a sudden somebody's bringing something back to you to either say, yay, it fits, or no, it doesn't.
So the way I envision this, I'll call it a new standard, is that it's not an administrative action. It would be filed with my office and then presented to the planning commission for their consideration. I am not looking for historic standard regulations. I'm looking more for a process in which the landowner has to prove the significance or the specialness of the proposal, and with documentation, and they have to basically convince the majority of the planning commission that yes, they agree with you, and yes, they think that a museum is appropriate or whatever. So by doing so, that if the planning commission approves it, then that allows me enforcement authority if they don't follow through or they do something inappropriate. So it's much like going through a development of a planned district. Once again, it's not an administrative action. The standards are pretty open, and it's at the discretion of the planning commission. So that's the way I envision this to be drafted.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any sort of appearance of picking and choosing what does and what doesn't from the office that this originated from?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure everybody
That is
knew
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Squire Wisman.
Yeah, to elaborate on that question, I think there is a couple of things here. There is a standard already set forth by the federal government about what is and isn't historic, what are historical resources. So there is no, local choice in those efforts. Those are well-defined, and there's a local, state, and federal process that review all of those things. And outside of the boundary of the city, we mentioned in this committee, there's, to my knowledge, only 15 and maybe only 13 still standing National Register historic sites in our county. There may be additional sites that are archaeological that are not made public for their own protection. So we'll say that there may be some others that just are not promoted. Robert, after we left the Administrative Services Committee, it was my understanding that we would have sort of till the end of the month or first of next month to have some input on drafting your language, and that the SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, hadn't been consulted yet. Our local preservation nonprofit group hasn't been consulted yet, so there needs to be some input, and we didn't actually get a draft of even what's being presented as the court here, the full body, so I think it's a little premature to ask the court just yet for input to say go forward with it, although of course I fully support moving forward, but just for everyone's knowledge, I think maybe we ought to wait till the next meeting, which would be almost the end of the month, to have some of that language more vetted out by the local groups before it's brought to this body to, if possible, to move forward with that.
So if I may, what was presented to the Administrative Services Committee was the language proposed for the comprehensive plan. okay? The comprehensive plan is the document that is used to direct and guide regulation, okay? So its input into that comprehensive plan is the foundation that my department needs to prepare language, otherwise there's no basis for it, okay? Prior to this document that was presented to the committee, prior to it being submitted to the advisory committee for consideration, I did contact and discuss with the director of the State Historic Preservation Office here in town, Mr. Potts, and I expressed to him my desire and that of the committee, and he offered the full support of his staff in assisting me in drafting the language. So it's going to be a long process. The gears of government grind slowly, so I'm trying to get a jump start on it.
Squire Tanner.
I was in that meeting also, and I appreciate the efforts, and I don't think anybody on this court, well, I'm not speaking to anybody, but except Richard. But the question I had then is that request would have to come from the property owner, not from somebody else. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that would, I can't request it, you put Kelly Dacus' house on she had to do it.
Unless she grants you limited power of attorney,
Okay.
which we do have the form.
Yeah, all right.
That does occur.
Well, they might do that in some areas or something, but generally speaking, I would want to protect the owner, make sure the owner had to make the request, not somebody
Yes,
else,
correct.
not an outsider.
Just like one of the squires could not rezone your property. Same.
And
process.
I considered what we looked at as a tentative draft, which it might be another draft floating around before you actually submit that to the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee to then insert that language in there, and then you go to the Planning Commission. I may be off the step or two, but that's close to correct. Is that right?
Correct in
It goes to the plan, your first draft or the rough draft, once it's smoothed up a little bit, goes in the comprehensive plan if they approve it and we approve it. But then because eventually the comprehensive plan is going to come back here, is that correct?
You are correct. Yes, what you just described is correct.
Okay, and it also has to go, the ordinance has to go before the Planning Commission, which ties in the whole package, I think.
You are correct.
All right,
And then ultimately comes to the board.
I'm kind of following up on it. I'm rambling a little bit, and I'm following up on what Eric said, that we just need, I don't know where we need to be right now. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
I think when Robert and I talked, he just needs us to basically say it's okay for him to work on this to get started. I mean, that's basically where we are. And it will come back here.
Well, Judge, something that was mentioned the other day in that committee meeting was that our comprehensive plan states one thing. It talks about protection of historic resources 15 times in there, and yet our planning office doesn't have the tools in place yet to recognize those things. So we're not up to date with what our comprehensive plan states we're going to do for the past 25 years, by the way. So it's necessary to move forward to do something.
Yeah.
To tweak any language is premature, I believe, and what I didn't want us to get into. We don't have this on the agenda it's under judges' reports for, any public input, so I don't want to jump that line of making any tweaks or talking about the way we want things done. But there's a mandate that the office needs to go forward with it to comply with their own comprehensive plan, so I think that's a no-brainer.
So we do need to have good language written up and submitted into the comp plan before we draft it at the county level for your office to oversee.
So to, I guess, restate, excuse me, what you're saying is language in the comprehensive plan in order for me to work on a standard in the zoning orders. Is that what you were saying? Yes.
Okay.
And I did want to elaborate that I am recommending that this language in the comprehensive plan go into the land use chapter, where, and Squire Wisman's 100% correct. There are numerous references to historic preservation and all this kind of stuff. The county has no authority to regulate any historic properties, okay? And that's a shame. And this court's dealt with that issue before. And so this is an opportunity to provide that, but, you know, with a lighter touch, using it as a tourist attraction and economic development type strategy, something that you can enhance it as opposed to what happens if
At
you
least
have
force us
nothing.
to consider it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. I think for the members who are not on that committee of the court to understand, when the members of the committee came to the meeting, it is the first time that any of the language was seen by anyone, so we didn't thoroughly have the opportunity to sit there and review as well as vet. You know, there were some surface questions asked, so I'm not sure if the will of the body is for it to be reviewed a little more and some input provided back to, you know, staff, or if it's just to let staff, you know, go forth and then come back to the body. So it seems to me
So-
that that's kind of the tipping point of it, but
So
I may be wrong.
Robert, could we schedule another admin code meeting and then you bring your rough draft to that meeting prior to turning it into the committee?
Are you referring to the rough draft of the standard?
Yeah.
That I would like-
What you're asking us so you can work on, whatever you're going to turn in, like, I think that's what I'm hearing from the court.
Well, I have not even begun that process.
Right.
Because I didn't know if the court was interested in even pursuing it. That's
So
why,
let's assume that they're like, okay, you all can pursue it. Can we see a rough draft before it leaves this office? Am I hearing you all? Is that about what we're asking?
What I feel like we're being asked is to make a request to the planning commission to create something on, we've done that in this body before. There are avenues the planning commission then has to its benefit, including another body of the city that's dedicated to historic preservation, including a very well talented historic preservation officer at the city of Frankfort, and other resources that can flesh a lot of that out amongst members of the community as well, that I think is the appropriate process. We just state here now whether we want to move forward with that process.
Okay.
I don't know if we necessarily need a draft, and Robert, you've indicated at that last meeting that there was quite a lengthy process that ideally you wanted to, correct me if I'm wrong, you wanted to get this process started so we can include that language in the comprehensive plan, but the full language of what becomes the zoning standard and the ordinance might come at some point after the comprehensive plan is finished even and adopted.
yes, sir, you are correct.
So
Thank you.
we've got a lot of time before we get into nitty-gritty language.
That is true. And I would just like to add, quoting from former county attorney, the comprehensive plan is a guide, not a straitjacket. Straitjacket comes in the form of an ordinance, and so, it's one win to get this language into the comprehensive plan. Okay?
And let me say, because I like to say it all the time too, the comprehensive plan is actually a contract between the elected officials and our citizens about the way we will together develop our community. It could be interpreted as a guide, but in my opinion, it is the legally binding contract between us that this is the way we're going to move forward as a community, and it needs all the public input and process that we can possibly put into it.
I'm just going to amen that.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. So again, I'm going to revisit that. So as I understand it, and maybe I understand it and misunderstanding it, is the tipping point, since it was presented to the Administrative Services Committee at that meeting, and there really wasn't the opportunity to thoroughly review it, is that group asked to review it, bring suggestions forward to the planning director, or are we being asked tonight in this presentation to go ahead and just say, planning director, have at it? I'm just trying to understand what the tipping point is, just so I know how to frame it in my mind. That's
For just
for this.
a little bit of background, in my tenure at the county, and I've been here a few minutes, there has never been a committee of the fiscal court that ever review draft ordinance language being presented to the fiscal court. So this committee is the first time ever that this has happened. So I guess what I'm getting is there's no precedent for how this was to have been done or anything. Judge Mueller thought it'd be best to have a committee, and we were like, which one should we send it to? I'm like, I don't know. And so we thought you all would be appropriate. So I'm just saying it's new to all of us. So
And I think that presents us with a wealth of opportunity. So I think this,
it's kind of like everybody else here. We saw that, I was there, you handed out the document, had draft rope stamped on it, et cetera. We reviewed that. It was some, I won't say questions, but some understanding. You have to see it 5 minutes. You can't decide whether you like what you read or not, or at least I can't. But I was under assumption that you might come back with another draft that was like draft number 2, that might be more inclusive or more explanatory, so to speak, before we decided on that. Even though I think everybody here is thinking the same lines. I mean, it's a great opportunity if we get all the bugs worked out. Maybe the bugs shouldn't be worked out until you get to the planning commission. I don't know the answer to that. But that's as far as going forward. I don't know when we would be willing to make that. Do we need an official record on official?
Y'all have confused me all to pieces. I think it's just kind of gone around in circles so much now I'm confused, but I thought I understood at the beginning. Sorry. I'm not on this committee, so this is just confusing to me. You aren't asking tonight for us to really approve anything.
Correct.
Except just to allow you to get started so that you will have something for the comprehensive plan.
Well, actually, it would be, what I'm requesting is authority from the court for me to pursue language to an ordinance.
Just to pursue the language.
Yes, to be presented to the planning commission and then forwarded to the fiscal court, and that's required by statute.
Perfect.
So,
I'm great with
but
that.
the language that has been drafted, that was submitted to the committee, has been overwhelmingly accepted by the advisory committee.
And that's where I wanted to go.
Yes.
So anything that's going to be in the comp plan has been through your office and the city's planning office and
Yes.
the advisory committee and the consultants that we've hired.
Yes.
And you all together with some of the experts that Squire Wisman had mentioned will vet that in language that goes into the comp plan. And then, and you being on both sides of that with the ordinance, it's all going to mesh.
That is correct.
Perfect.
Very much.
So I move to allow Robert to move forward with this process and come back to us and with the caveat and understanding, as Squire Sebastian requested and has brought up, that my understanding sitting in on that committee for that day also that the committee would make recommendations and or see another draft. So it will come back to us in the end in some way.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I second that?
Sure.
Oh, I'm good, yeah. I think it's a good idea if you work it, we can get the bugs out of it.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Alrighty. We're going to move on to the approval of minutes from our regular meeting of January 24, 2024. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, we're going to move on to...
Judge?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Squire, go ahead. I apologize. I didn't see you.
Sorry, thank you. Is there, I guess for clarity, I have two things. For clarity, do the minutes need to reflect when someone joins via Zoom? I've had to join via Zoom and not physically been here. Do they need to reflect that for any purpose?
It's a great question.
That's a question to
County Attorney.
whomever.
Mr. County Attorney?
I don't know the answer to that. And then I have one more.
I don't believe it'd be necessary, other than to just possibly clarify, because if you're attending via Zoom, you're attending
You're
the
still
meeting just like
attending.
you were attending in person.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's
Just a
a
question.
it's a great question, Squire.
And then on the page 2 at the bottom, the last paragraph, it just says motion by Tanner. Could we,
No, Squire, you missed Squire on that
Could we
one, Kim.
Oh, yes, I'll fix that.
Last paragraph, yes, thank you. Good catch. All right, any other comments on the minutes? Seeing none, authorization to receive partial payment of 2023 excess taxes, county clerk. There he is, Mr. Hancock, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you, Judge?
Fabulous, thank you.
Kim, you're going to have to do better at the minutes now. I was actually the clerk for that meeting.
I'm
That's
sorry.
fine. That's why I'm kidding. I was the clerk
I
for
thought about
that.
that for a minute, I was like, I'm pretty sure Jeff was the clerk on that one.
Hey, I'm lighten the mood here. I'm not going to get a historical district change or anything today. $535,000 is my excess fees that I'm returning at this point. That's 90% of your fees back to you. We always wait until about the second week of March or better to give you the last 10%. We want to make sure that any unpaid bills, because if I give it all to you now and then we have an unpaid bill, we have a tax refund or something that we have to do, then I have to go through a whole mess of getting Amy to refund it back out of last year's fees. So it's just a safer bet to get it through. Couple of things that I want to go over real quick. It might sound like it's too early, but the elections are coming up. We were going to stick with the 12 locations. We're going to have the 3 early voting locations. Really want to talk to the downtown magistrates and make sure that they know this. We are moving Election Day from the Yes Arts building to the F.D. Wilkerson Gym on Ewing Street. We're doing this because we have anticipations in the fall of having an absolutely huge turnout. We can never get that many people through on Election Day. If we have a 70% plus turnout, we're going to use, and we're going to make this very simple from here on out. On Election Day, we're going to have 3 huge centers that have 20 accesses at every one of them. And it's going to be Franklin County, Western Hills, Frankfort High. So if you're in downtown, west side, east side, those are your 3 really big locations that you're going to be able to go and get a bunch of people through all at one time. So I want you all to start spreading that word. And I walked it the other day because I wanted to make sure that we weren't putting the voter out. From the back door of the Yes Arts building to the front door of the F.D. Wilkerson Gym is 700 feet. From back door to back door, it's 490. So we're talking about less feet than it would take you to walk from one side of Walmart to the other. We're trying to make sure that we will do all the signage we need. We are sending out postcards as soon as our mapping's going to get done. I'm going to talk about mapping a little bit. It's time for our community to spend some money on mapping. So we have a map that is beneficial to all the constituents in Franklin County. I'm spearheading this at this point. I'm starting to put it together. It's got to be done. This is it's a must that must happen. We were going to do it in the most beneficial, cost-effective way we can. We are looking at how many departments we can help with it, whether it be the sheriff's office, the county clerk's office, the PVA office, but more important, the constituents. When this mapping is done, they'll know exactly where they vote, who they vote for, when they can vote. They will also be able to pull their deed from right there online. They'll be able to figure it out what it is. They'll be able to print it. They'll be able to see their boundaries. This map is going to be a game changer for people looking up. They can pull in and figure out they're in the Collins Lane School District. It'll be the first time ever you're going to be able to pull up 535 Grandma. Oh, I'm in Collins Lane. I'm not in Bridgeport. I'm not in. It's a usable map for the constituents. That's going to happen this year. We don't have a choice. We have to put something usable out there that's going to make sense for everybody. Besides that, Cavis is going okay, guys. I'm going to tell you, I'm working my people to death. They're working every other Saturday right now, trying to keep up and catch up. We are doing our best to just keep our heads above water. The system is doing what it was meant to do, but anytime you're taking a system that was built in 1984 and you're converting all that data over into a brand new system, and they're expecting it to work, right off the bat, I'm really impressed we were able to collect what tax dollars we're able to collect. I'm not as far behind as I thought I was at this point. We are quickly catching up. We've had some really, really good days in tax collection base for motor vehicle. The only thing we haven't paid you, we just gave you the 535, but the only thing we haven't done at this point is been able to reimburse you all for our payroll. I expect that to happen by the first day of March. So I expect to be able to catch up all of January, and I hope all of February. It might be half of February. But I hope to get all of that reimbursed and back to you and in your hands. Besides that, overall, we're doing really well. This is going to be a big election year. It's going to be an ugly election year. Presidential elections are hard. They're tough. It brings out a whole different group of voters that you don't see but once every 4 years. They get agitated. They don't like lines. So we're preparing for that right now. On another note for the voters, we were able to go out to Franklin County and Western Hills. And instead of them putting me outside their lunchroom, they gave me 20 minutes with both classes. Guys, usually I get 4 or 5 voter registrations. I got 47 at Franklin County and 42 at Western Hills.
Wow, that is awesome.
I mean, we're engaging these kids, and we gave everybody the opportunity that engaged. We're going to give them the opportunity to fill out an application to be poll workers. Those kids loved it. They're eating it up. They want to be part of it. They want to do it. They want to help in the election process. It's probably been one of the most beneficial things I've done was being able to go out and actually talk to them. Guys, I appreciate your time today. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Jeff. Squire Tracy. Microphone, please.
In regards to that mapping, I know that the sheriff and over the last couple of months, the sheriff and the PVA has talked to several of us, and I think he plans on talking to all of us. Is that the Eagle View that the PVA is pushing as well?
Yes, I've talked hand in hand, and I will tell you, Will Rhodes has done an amazing job in making himself and his information available. He has not said no to any of my people, and I tell you, I really did. I thought I was going to get pushback from the guy that controls our third-party deed system. He offered all the information up to get all the deeds out there, to get them accessible and easily used, to get them transferred over into his system.
I know they had a training class in Scott County. Were you able to attend that? I know he did, that the PVA did. I don't know if you made it or not. If you did, can you tell us a little bit about it?
I did not.
Okay.
I wasn't able to attend.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for our clerk?
Sorry, Kim, I wasn't picking on you.
I just want to say I'm
picking on me.
thrilled that you went to the school. I think it's so important to get these kids involved, and I am so excited that you all are doing that. Thank you very much for that.
Do you have any ability to go to Frankfurt High?
I'm going to Frankfurt High next week, and I'm actually going to the Christian Academy, maybe.
Perfect.
I didn't tomorrow.
All right, perfect.
I don't think.
Yeah.
But yes, we're going to all of them.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Good deal. Jeff, thank you very much.
Yep.
We appreciate what y'all are doing.
Can I
Oh,
just-
sorry, Squire Sebastian.
Can I just say one
Absolutely.
thing? Thank you, Judge.
Yeah.
You're doing an amazing job of touching base with kids that are of age now to vote. I think there's a homeschool association. That might be something, another place
If
for
I could,
individuals. If you want that, I'll see if I can get, if it will be helpful. If it will not be helpful,
I would love to
Back
talk
away.
to the homeschool group. If I can get the information, I would love to sit down. I think
Okay.
they'd be a captive audience.
I do.
I think
do
they
as
would
well.
listen. I think they would understand. So I'd love to talk to the
All
homeschool
right,
group.
I'll just make a note and
Yeah.
get that to you.
Be
Thank you.
great.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, guys.
All righty, next we have Squire. Sheriff Squire's here. Sheriff, how you doing?
Good. So the first thing is Sergeant Doug Sutton. He's served us for a long time and he's retiring, so we're just asking to buy his gun and send him off with that like we always do.
Any questions on that one for the sheriff? We appreciate his years of service. Okay.
My next is a lot of cars that we're surplusing. I sent out an email about the trouble we were actually having with some, so this is our solution. Just trade them in on new ones.
So, questions? I have one, but go ahead, Squire. Sebastian?
No, thank you, Judge. Thank you for coming tonight. So, from my count of the list, appeared that there were 22 vehicles on there to surplus. So, can 22 vehicles be sourced in the timely
Yes.
manner that you need them. Because what I'm hearing is,
Right.
some vehicles are lagging. We've heard about other pieces of equipment lagging. So
Sure.
just wanted to ask about that.
So a lot of these cars, like the 15 and 16 Chargers or pool cars, we're not actually getting 22 cars. We'll probably get between like 12 and 15.
Okay.
So, which will be enough for what we need.
So my follow-up question is that any of the existing equipment that's installed in the vehicles, can any of it, cages, because we're going to a different brand, so I don't know how that all
We're
works.
actually selling those cars upfitted this time, so we'll be doing.
Okay, everything will be, yeah, okay, all right. And so, with these new vehicles, I guess, what are the additional costs to upfit that? And is that something that we'll be looking at a later time, or is that something that you're thinking will be
It's
all encompassed in that deal?
Right, I'm not asking the court for any money except for, like we always do in July for
Yeah.
3 cars, which is usually, what, 150? But yeah, we will, in this trade, we're actually gonna get some money back that'll go towards the upfits.
Okay, thank you so much.
Squire Tracy. Microphone, please.
Sheriff, thank you. Quick question. You've got 10 Tahoes listed on here. If it's not, I would assume that we probably need to look at the enforcement officers, the planning and zoning enforcement officer's vehicle, due to the fact of it being a Tahoe. Probably.
No, that's a good question, and yes, I did include his in this, so
Okay.
I figured everybody would appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there any consideration of some of these vehicles that are lower mileage being offered at market price to another government entity or within this county? For example, water departments?
Well, I don't think anybody's gonna give us what they're buying them for, because first off, there's a shortage. They were only building so many, and they went up 10 grand, so
Well, I was
the
thinking
good
more
thing
about
is,
down here at the
we're gonna
trucks.
get around 50,000 each for these cars.
What about the Rams?
They're bringing almost what we paid for them according to the appraisal, so I think it would be hard to sell them and come out, And if something does happen, we'll revisit it before the trade, but I think we're gonna come out.
They might not even want one. I don't
Right.
know.
I don't think anybody's gonna give us what we're gonna get for them.
Chris, was it a van
Yes,
that was at the jail?
It
that was
is.
Reverted to your office, is it one of these?
it's the last car on there. It's actually Sergeant Doug Sutton that's retiring, so we're actually probably gonna trade that out for a Durango or something.
All right. Sheriff, thank you very much. We Squire Blackburn.
Sheriff, I had a lot of questions, and every single one was asked by somebody else, and you've just had a track record of taking care of your fleet and planning ahead, and it's been a real relief on the court to have you being so proactive, and I appreciate it personally, and I think the court does as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good tool when, we can buy cars cheaper than most people, and then if you look at these 21 Tahoes, we've had them almost 4 years. Both of those are out of warranty, the top two, so if you drop an engine or transmission, that's a lot of money. And, we can actually get a car and half the upfit by selling them, so I think it's a no-brainer.
Sheriff, thank you. We
All right.
appreciate
Thank
everything you and your team are doing. All righty, next, I believe Tammy is coming up to talk to us about a grant for the jail. How are you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Good, thanks for being with us.
This is a resolution to apply for a salary grant through the Kentucky Department for Library and Archives Local Records Grant Program for the Franklin County Regional Jail. If awarded, this would fund a seasonal employee at $17 an hour for 36 weeks and would digitize approximately 5,500 files. Once digitized, jail staff would upload those files into their jail tracker software.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted to check and see is Franklin County applying for the maximum award allowable, I'm assuming? Or is there only one amount that we can apply for?
There's not really an amount. You can apply up to 50 weeks $15 an hour minimum is the only standard that's in the guidelines. And in speaking with HR, we would have to hire a seasonal employee, so it would be no more than 9 months. So in the estimation that, in speaking with the jail staff on how many files they thought, files we could scan in a day, we came up with this number, so.
Using
they
that
would-
as your formula.
Yeah.
So we're not going to seek out a company who has experience in digitizing, I guess, to reduce the learning curve of how that works.
Well,
We're going to go out for it.
I'm sorry.
No, you please go ahead.
Sorry.
Just asking a question.
Well, we're not going to preserve the records. We're scanning them in, we're going to put them on a jump drive or a hard drive, and then it will go back to the jail so that they can upload that into the jail tracker software. So I'm not really sure that there's like an expertise. I don't see that there's an expertise level needed.
There's not. I did it when I was 22. It's real simple, I promise. There's not any real expertise to it.
Yeah, it's not, what you're thinking about maybe is the preservation of records it's totally separate. This is, the jail has an extensive amount of paper files that we would like to get digitized.
Any other questions for Tammy on this item? Thank you, Tammy. You have another one, and I believe you brought backup tonight, didn't you?
Yes, I'm going to
Yeah.
let Karen.
Here she comes. Karen, how are you doing?
Doing well. How's everyone?
Good. Everybody remembers Karen from the Bluegrass ad, right? Okay, you want to talk about this next one?
Sure. This resolution is for the CDBG that the county applied for on behalf of Farmdale Sanitation District to address the package plants out 127. And so this resolution is for cost overrun. So if the project gets bid and it comes in either way over, or as we're going through construction and some big hiccup happens, if there's additional costs that need to be paid, this resolution is stating that those will be borne by the sanitation district. And that should be spelled out in the subrecipient agreement that you all have already passed with the sanitation district. And this is just saying that CDBG won't be paying for any of those cost overruns. It'll come from another source that this district will fund.
All right, any questions for Karen on this item? All right, Karen, thank you. Appreciate you being with us tonight. Tammy, I believe you have another one.
Yes, this is a resolution to apply for FEMA's Assistance to Firefighters Grant for funding of 17 SCBA's 34 cylinders and 53 face masks. Since Franklin County Fire Department serves over 20,000 residents, we qualify for a 10% match. And that would be approximately $26,000 based on the quote we've received for the equipment.
Chief, you want to talk about these at all? Feel like okay, Squire Sebastian.
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Judge. So I just wanted to kind of check about the cost for each SCBA and then kind of the life cycle. I know it says in our documentation that we've had these for 20 years, so I didn't know if clearly technology changes all the time, and so there may be a shorter life cycle window and that type of thing. And they may be more costly as a reason, for that reason. So can you talk about the cost of each one to us and a little bit about the life cycle?
So the quote we received was broken down between the cost of the actual SCBA unit, each cylinder, and then the face mask. The SCBA's unit itself is about $7,800.
Okay.
The cylinders are about $1,300, $1,300 to $1,400 a piece, and the masks, the newest, latest, greatest ones with the built-in communications, are about $1,450 a piece. And the ones that we currently have are well past their life cycle. We've been trying for this grant for multiple years now, and last year, we started with the process of going ahead and replacing 12 of them through the budget, which has been very beneficial because currently we have several that are out of service and they no longer support those SCBA's.
I was going to ask about
So the company, some of the parts that we need to repair some of our units currently aren't even available. So we've had to deem some of those, once they go out of service, as parts packs, and just kind of rob and piece off of those. We have an in-house repair center that we have people certified to do the maintenance and all the testing and all the repairs on them. But the good thing about the new units, we've actually purchased, the 12 we've gotten through this budget, they actually have a, what they call, we'll figure out the, terms of it later as they go on life, but they call it a lifetime warranty as long as you own the pack. Then it covers the electronic components. But there's so many upgraded safety features there in these new ones that just weren't in them 20 plus years ago.
So because of that, and that's kind of where I was going with the technology changing rapidly, are we assuming the life cycle is 8 years, 7 years, 10? I mean, what kind of time frame are they giving you on that?
I would expect no less than 15, somewhere around the 15 to 16 years.
Okay.
We would really start looking and starting a replacement schedule on them.
So the ones we have now, they're already on a clock. Are we looking at replacing those as well, or are we looking at hanging on to those?
The ones, you're talking about the older ones that we have? The ones that we have that are older, we would hang on to a few of them maybe and use them as training packs.
Backup or something?
Just to keep, let guys take those to the trainings where they're gonna beat and bang on them and be kind of rough on them and not necessarily put the new packs do that kind of damage. And I mean, they're designed for that, but if we can minimize it for the training exercises, that's what we're gonna do.
So my math shows me that these are about 10, 550 each, between 10, 5 and 10, 6 each.
Somewhere around there.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Squire Blackburn.
You had mentioned like the life cycle and the schedule to replace. So I know we went after 12 last year. What happens if we don't receive this grant?
If we don't, I'm planning to budget for another 12 this year in the budget cycle. That will, once we get the next 12, we will be able to maintain, but we won't have much flexibility. We won't be able to equip every riding position on our trucks. But we're hopeful with this grant. Another thing to consider with this grant is, from what I was told the other day, this could be the last year this grant exists if the government doesn't decide to re-up those funds for the Assistance Firefighter Grant. So we're hoping to be successful on this one. This is really the only grant that I'm aware of that's large enough to kind of tackle this kind of project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Tammy. Robert, I believe you're next.
Thank you. So this next item is to award a bid for the construction of a building at the animal compost facility. It's a three-sided structure for housing the rubber tire loader and the new screener. This project was advertised, and at the bid opening there was only one submittal. It came in at $34,600. Funds are available. And staff recommends award to WCM General Contracting and Construction Incorporated here in Franklin County.
Any questions? Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. And I guess my comment isn't specifically about the item, but it generally relates to kind of to the concept of it. If that makes any sense. So in this, specifications were developed for the item. So did the same staff resources that we had to call on to develop the specifications prepare the specification document? And the reason I'm going in that direction is I'm trying to figure out if I think like we all are, is there staff resources available within the departments, say in parks, to work on things for Hitchcock, say in the road department to work on items like RFPs or requests, or the jail or the fire department to work on those, to get the appropriate training, I guess, to enable to have that capacity to create documents like this. What I'm thinking is, in the grand scheme of things, it reduces the workload on a resource or on two resources, maybe, if there are two people that know how to do this stuff, and puts that capacity back in the department And I know we had discussed that in the past, in the last court. We had discussed it. And it just, it makes sense to be able to have the department work on that so that one or two people aren't burdened with it across all of county government.
No,
So I'm circling back on
yeah.
that. I meant to circle back on it before, and if I haven't, I don't know why I haven't.
No, so I think that's a great question, and I think if you talk to a lot of the staff here, they've been cross-training a lot of this winter, so it is happening. As far as actual, specifications and things, Ally did work on these a bunch.
That's fantastic.
She did everything. I know she went to Robert to get some mapping, we're trying to figure out exactly where it would sit, because it had to be approved from Buffalo Trace. So, it was kind of a process, but I think that's a great thing to talk about, and I think we need to work towards it, because we know P&Z only has so much time in the day.
That's the thing.
And so, yeah,
I mean,
we're trying.
And that's this is not an artful term, but it's by default that an undue burden falls on a staff resource.
Yep.
When I hear, I'm covered up, and now I've got to set all these things aside, not in a negative way,
Yeah.
not in a negative way at all. I'm just going to set my work aside because something else now has jumped in front of it, when all of those things find themselves on an equal level of needing to be done. So I'm just asking
It's great.
for
Great
that
question.
reason, and can we circle back on this in the next month or so, just to kind of see where we are in that process, so we don't lose the momentum
Yeah.
that we're talking about today?
No, absolutely.
I'm bringing it up purely for that reason.
Yep, no, I think it's a very good thought. But I do know this has been, Ally went ahead and, because there was funds left over from the screener, she contacted the state and talked to them as far as what we were wanting to do. We proposed it to Buffalo Trace. They completely understood. We're trying to take care of our equipment. Duke and I had a long conversation. We talked about building this ourselves through the road department, but we didn't want to put anything else on their plate, because with all the construction going on down there and mow trim and every ditching, we figured we wanted them to focus, and we were pretty excited when the price came in. I think it's very reasonable, so that's where we are. Any other questions for Robert? Robert, thank you.
Thank you.
Robert, you have another one, I guess, for the Bluegrass ad.
Yes, sir. I'm requesting authorization from the court to enter into an agreement with the Bluegrass Area Development District for land use planning services and technical assistance relating to development within the county. This is the exact same contract that the court has approved in prior years. All the language stayed the same except for the ending date, which is on the fiscal year. As you can see in the background, we utilize them for assistance in mapping, like i.e., the precinct mapping and such, and wrapping up a few loose ends there, preparing reports for boards in the event there's a conflict of interest or staff is out or something, or might be a unique situation in which they have expertise in that field. So it is an as-needed basis only, and so obviously we only call them when we truly do need them, and they've been a great resource and big help from the years past, and we'd like to continue forward. Since this, if approved, since this does expire at the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, 2024, I will be submitting back another one prior to this expiration that would initiate in the new fiscal year, July 1.
So Robert, I'm going to ask you, is this something that's in your budget? Okay.
It's unbudgeted, but it's necessary.
Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. I just want to see if I can call everybody's attention to number 8, notices, on page 3. The second sentence reads, "Such notices may be delivered by U.S. mail and shall be deemed delivered 3 days after being postmarked." I'm just wondering if we can amend that to include that there be a certified notice, because they're assuming something rather than just this general acceptance terms. Because we're just assuming something's happening. And I can say from my own I have been told my mail shows up in my neighbor's mailbox a lot, and so I can't say within great certainty that my personal mail gets to my house 3 days. Now, this is a little different here, but
Yeah.
I'm just asking the question, is it okay with everyone that this general acceptance remains in here? And then I have one other question.
Thoughts? I don't see any problem with that. Max, do you need to,
You may,
Comment on
you may
that,
know more than I know about that, clearly. Sure you will.
Well, I mean, I can tell you from the rules of civil procedure in courts, you're deemed to have received it 3 days after something is mailed to you. So, I mean, so that's, I think, fairly standard language.
Okay, I'm just asking the question on that.
As far as
I
I'm
just
concerned,
don't-
because I know for sure that's in there. It's a 3-day mailing rule, so when somebody mails it, you're considered to have, been served with it at least 3 days after.
Okay. My second, so I guess is that if that's an acceptable legal practice, then I guess that's why it's in here that
If the
way.
court wants to change terms of a contract just because it's a term that's used in civil procedure with the courts, it doesn't necessarily mean that, that's, you can alter terms of contract to whatever you want. So if you prefer it to be done by certified mail as opposed to regular U.S. mail 3 days after, I mean, that can all be negotiated through the contract.
I'll leave it to everybody else to weigh in on. My other question is on page 4, number 13, about the venue. We have the venue be Franklin County because that's where the work will be done. Work won't be done in Fayette. I ask this every
Yeah.
time. Every time.
I don't think that's a problem. You all good with that?
I got a question.
Well, hold on, I just
Okay.
want to kind of take a head nod, maybe.
I'm sorry.
Is everybody okay with changing that to Franklin County if the Bluegrass ad is? I don't see any problem with that. Okay. Clerk, can you make note of that, please? Squire Tanner, go ahead. I'm sorry, I just want to finish that thought.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. My question is to Robert, is this the only place, or is there another firm that offers this service?
Not that I'm aware of it, not off the top of my head, not unless we entered into an interlocal jurisdictional agreement with another planning unit.
Just a question, if this is being around Bluegrass ad, and I think the judge is on their board also. Is there any possibility, since they're one of a kind, negotiating anything with them?
Yeah, there's always room for negotiation.
Time's of the essence, so shut up.
But, the ad is the resource because they cover so many topics. They have a GIS department, they have land use planners, they have transportation planners, they have, they've got that full gamut, and they offer these services. It's just, one of the assets that they provide to all counties within their jurisdiction, so.
Bear with me.
Always good points brought up, but you bring up a good one. There are multiple ads around the state that it would be nice to look at their contracts and their rates and sort of see if there's comparables between the multiple agencies. I used to work as a Bluegrass ad. I think there's a lot of benefit and skill that's held there that we can use temporarily, that we don't have to have in-house because it's unique, like our GIS mapping specialist for, although I want one of those here in a position too, but for, that we've used so much for the mapping of the new districts, the magisterial and election districts. So, which gets into my question, Robert. In the past year, I remember the contract before being brought to us and stating that we really needed their help primarily for that service, for that remapping project. Can you speak to how much we've used other services of theirs external, other than we have seen them here a few times for planning issues? But I'm kind of wondering the financial amount we've spent on that resource in the past and time with it. And maybe that's something we can get after, because I'm fine moving it forward for another 6-month contract effectively, but.
So I don't have the numbers on the expenditures in prior years for this service. We're happy to get that for you. In terms of services, they provide in addition to the reapportionment, there was a time period in which I had an open or a vacant land use planner position. And at the same time, I had a land use planner, the planning supervisor was on vacation in Europe for 3 weeks. And so the ad, sent up staff, their staff on a part-time basis to assist me processing applications. Also, if there's a conflict of interest between the planning department and an applicant, then the Booker's ad takes those cases on and takes it all the way through so that staff is hands-off on that all the way through the process. So those are two of the major times that we call it.
I'd really like.
And I would also say grants, they still are handling
Oh,
basically our
yes.
federal grants. So Tammy and especially Karen work almost daily together on
Yeah.
federal grants. So I just wanted to interject there because I know it's a big one.
Especially with
the
these.
Farmdale Sanitation District.
yeah.
Yes.
Especially with these contract renewals and not being a budgeted item, it would be nice to know sort of what our precedent was in the past going forward, right? And I would like to see those as standard operating procedure as part of these renewals in the future if we could, because I think the ad specifically, we're going to keep a contract with them indefinitely because of those resources, but I'd like to chart where we're going and what we're spending. Thanks.
Squire Blackburn.
And I was in the same vein, Squire, to have a line item, maybe a placeholder. So it's not something that we're gonna use every year and not know an amount. We can just maybe have a placeholder there that's may not cover it all, maybe too much, but just so we can budget for it. The Finance Committee, maybe make a note of that.
Yeah.
I'm writing her down right now.
I know you are.
Excellent idea, thank you.
I do have one more question.
Go ahead, Squire.
Why wouldn't this be an expenditure for the budget of the planning commission?
Because we pay for them, basically. I mean, we supplement the planning commission.
Well, I know your money there, so it's the city. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what, making a share of this bill,
That's the current conversation we've been having, so it's noted.
I'm
Right, Squire?
I'm
Squire, do you remember that?
Oh, I ask it every year. Looking forward to a real answer one day.
Squire Blackburn.
So if an application's in the county staff prepares the report. If the application's in the city staff prepares the report for the planning commission.
Correct.
So we wouldn't use it for the city. We're not paying for them to cover city staff to do an application. We're covering it for the county staff.
That is correct.
I believe the city has their own contract with the ad as well, don't they? I believe.
I'm not sure, to be honest
I want to make sure we cover that.
Yeah.
Not really sure.
And that is a great question, Richard.
Alrighty. See no other questions, Robert? Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Alrighty. The next agenda item is closed session. Authorization to go into closed session per KRS 61.8101F. Discussions or hearings which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. We are going to head into closed session, please. Andrew, are we back on? All right, we are now in open session, and we would like to have Amy, our treasurer, talk about budget transfers. Good evening, Amy.
Good evening. So this budget transfer was requested from the road department. They had 2 line items that were running short, and so they recommended you making a move from the other line item.
Any questions on the budget transfer? Oh, Squire Sebastian.
Do we know, thank you, Judge. Madam Treasurer, do we know what building maintenance was needed for this additional transfer of funds? Do we know? There he is. I'm sorry. I didn't look. Thank you.
Yeah, we had done some, when I come on board, we've done some cleaning to the office down there, the outside of it, done a little painting, just some repairs that need to be done. And then we purchased a shipping container out of that budget line, just for storage down on Home Street, for some of the stuff that was in the building that had to be demoed.
Thank you.
So that's the biggest part of it.
Thank you, Duke. Any other questions? Alrighty, next one.
The next agenda item is our third amendment for the year. And the first part of it, I'm amending in some planning and zoning fees that we've collected in excess of our budgeted amount to cover some planning and zoning expenses. We've got quite a few grants that I'm amending in. I'm also amending in some additional interest that we've received over the budget. And I've got that listed as to what that's covering, and also some insurance proceeds. Just to give you a summary, with this amendment, the budget will increase by 1.365774, bringing the budget to $53,745,753. And I'd also like to give you the numbers that exclude the capital expenses from the federal projects. So excluding those, this amendment will increase the budget by $296,782, making the budget $32,664,387. And this is the first reading.
Any questions for our treasurer on this? Okay, next item, please.
So you should have the long page. Do they have a long page, Kim? Yay! And this is the summary of receipts, expenses for all the funds for the 7 months ending January 31st. Receipts, $32,614,438. Expenses, $19,933,986, leaving us with an excess of $12,680,452. If you add in our fund balance as of June 30th, that brings us to $33.9 million. Just remember that does include the $10 million bond. And in your packet, you also have the revenue and expenses as of February 9th.
All righty, questions for Amy on this? Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Madam Treasurer, I've got a question in regard to page 2 on the expenses, 01-5070-323, which is engineering services. At this point, we're already over budget. Do we know, and our planning director's here, and maybe between the two of you all might know, are there, I guess, additional anticipated expenses for the remaining 4 months that's going to drive that up even larger than it at this point?
So I can answer the first part of that. If you go back to the budget amendment,
Yeah.
it will show, okay, engineering, it's the second part under the general fund. So these are additional, really unbudgeted expenses that have driven this number. And so I am amending in revenues to take care of this. We had the Duckers boundary survey for $15,000, the Hoover Boulevard signal warrant analysis for $7,000, Forks of Elkhorn sewer for $1,780. Robert, do you want to speak to if we might have some possible expenses moving forward?
Yes, so we are wrapping up Phase 1 survey at Lakeview Park for that master plan project. I'm waiting on that invoice. Of course, we'll have ongoing county engineering services, and then there are some additional engineering services being provided related to several of the grants that we're working on, such as Safe Streets for All and the Slickway Branch Drainage Project, and then potentially the watershed study that we'll be entering into hopefully shortly. Yes,
But it
and
sounds
I don't know
like
how much.
Sounds like it's things that we need to advance, so.
Yes, ma'am. All very good projects.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Amy? Go ahead, Squire.
Page 9, expenses for 17-5120-445. We've got in excess of 26,000 encumbered, and we're already almost 100% over our budget. Do we have any idea about the encumbrance
Chief's right
thing?
there. I think Chief wants to speak on it.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
To the,
I'm sorry,
Kentucky
I'm
Office of
gonna
Homeland
I'm gonna
Security
sit
grant.
back like this.
I didn't know he was still here either. He just stepped up.
Thank
So
you.
that's tied to the grant that we received from the MDTs. So we expended out that line, and then we will recoup those funds once that grant is finalized. We've already received the MDTs, we're just waiting on the documentations. Once they come in, we'll be able to finalize all that.
And that's also part of this budget amendment too, on page 2.
You see a pattern, right? Kept me asking for a reason. All right. Page 12, 97-8001-332, professional services. We've got 324K encumbered. And so again, that's going to bring that up to almost 100% over. So I'm sure we know what you're going to say, but
We'll probably need to do, I put the entire bond in the, well, not the entire, but most of it in the county road garage, the 750. So I will be moving, I'll do a budget transfer into that account.
Any other questions for Amy? Amy, thank you very much. Next is payment of claims. Anybody have any questions for Kim on payment of claims? Squire Sebastian.
Thank you, Judge. Page 3, 015140300303. I'm just wondering why we're receiving 6 months worth of billing. So it appears kind of delayed, and I'm hoping that, but because that's pretty substantial, it's 319,000, it's somewhat.
So the quarter ending September 30th, 23 was in question. The city sent us that invoice, and when I reviewed it, I just had some questions about it. So we sent it back to the city, and we've had some meetings with the city. They've worked on that and found their errors and resubmitted that along with the 12/31/23.
So thank you for artfully explaining that. Can you tell us if we feel like now that receiving this, we don't need to resubmit for any questions? Because I know there were questions at the time that came up. So we feel confident
Yes.
in this,
I do.
financially confident, I guess is the.
I do. They gave me, description of what that initial invoice, what was wrong with that, and the corrections that they made, and I am comfortable with that.
In page 1 of the jail, which is 03-5101-343, just going to note that the medical, we have another medical overage that is continued every month. And then I guess page 1 of the federal project 07-5350-578. I guess who can really discuss that expenditure and help us a little bit with that?
I can. So we had a grant that Bluegrass Ad ran for us for utility assistance, and that all of the funds were not utilized for that grant, and so this is the closeout that the money will go back to Department of Local Government so that that grant can be closed.
Scott Blackburn.
I've got a question. Down at the road department, I believe it's road, eye wash station service inspection, is that like a portable one, or is that like a?
Yeah, it's in the shop on the wall.
So it's attached, it's plumbed in and everything?
It's mounted to the wall. No, it's got a pressure hole.
Oh, okay.
That actually holds
Okay. On our new road building, do we have a dedicated one, like a built-in one? Eye wash station, or is it gonna be one of those reservoirs?
I'll have to look into that, I'm not sure on.
Because, I mean, at our school, we've got them in our shops, and they're basically maintenance-free. And, replacing caps and keeping it clean and flushing it, turn it on, let it run 10 minutes, do it twice a week. And it's an expense.
Well, and I think that's one of the things, because if you remember in that project, we're gonna have to approve an amount for all the things.
Right.
The refrigerator, microwave, eye wash
Fixtures,
stations.
furniture,
So I think that is on the list. I don't think it's provided from the contractor, but I think it's something that, we'll.
And it's a plumbing thing, it's something that our plumbing contractor.
Yeah, well, Duke can check into it. I mean, typically it should be standard.
Yeah.
You'd think it's in there, so, yeah. Duke's making a note, I can see it right now. All right, any other question on payment of claims? All righty, seeing none, our last agenda item is authorization to approve the board appointment to Peaksville Water District. So we appreciate Raven Turner serving on that board. She moved out of the district. We're very fortunate enough to get Mary Beth Robinson. I think she's going to be a great addition to that board. Is there any questions? Squire? Yeah.
No, I would just like to thank Raven for all of her hard work on the board and Ms. Robinson for stepping up and
Yeah.
wanting to serve.
Yep, thank you. All righty, other business. Do we have any other business tonight?
Quite a few items, Judge, if I can.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone wants to go first, but.
Go ahead.
We've had some discussions about the jail and some clarifications about employees, so I'd like to offer some language that I'd like to request the county attorney to draft into an order to bring back before us on our next agenda on February 28th for us to vote on. An order generally just takes one vote to go into effect, right? So we'd like it to state to the effect that all Franklin County agencies and employees are subject to the county administrative code as defined by Kentucky statute, and I'll provide this to Max. I just want to kind of read for you all to kind of get where my headspace is, and then we can tweak and things, and before that, and we'll have another jail task force, hopefully right about that time. So by Kentucky statute, and additional policies and procedures that are defined by the departments of the Franklin County government as approved by Franklin County Fiscal Court, and that's sort of the one item. The next and we may have a little different language in this that Mr. Tanner has provided as well, that all employees of the Franklin County Fiscal Court, their compensation, performance raises, and promotions are subject to the review and approval of the Franklin County Fiscal Court and shall be approved by the court prior to taking into effect as allowed by KRS. A third is that raises for any employee of the Franklin County Fiscal Court that are within the defined position range shall be at the recommendation of the elected official, department head, or the Franklin County Human Resource Director and County Judge Executive. And then finally, just to state that all employees of the Franklin County Fiscal Court, including those at the regional jail, shall be under the administration of the Franklin County Judge Executive and or the Franklin County Human Resource Director, again, as applicable under KRS law. So we're wanting to try to define some of the vagueness that's been going here, and I'm cognizant that at the moment we have tasked our sheriff's office with running some of this, but in future I just want to be very clear about countywide about how this process happens, and so we don't have any surprises that we've just had recently. So I'll provide these again to Max and just ask you to draft, and if anyone has any
How does the court feel about what Squire
input.
Richmond said, just thoughts on, go ahead, Squire, Tracy?
I guess just to be clear, this would exclude your 2 fee officers, correct? This would not include the clerk?
Yeah, I was trying to state that as any employee of the fiscal court directly, right?
It comes under purview of fiscal court, and they don't.
Okay. Yep.
So the other thing that I'm sure our county attorney's gonna research it, but I'm not sure that we need to talk about the administrative code in there, because this order is gonna be kind of dealing with strictly the salaries and positions, and that's it, really.
Okay.
But that's what we got the county attorney for.
Mr. County Attorney,
You have to be careful what you run for, you might get it.
I'll take a look at the language and see if we can get something drafted that I can get you all to look at.
There is, I want to say one thing about the meeting we had on Tuesday. It was a very good meeting, very good. A lot of understanding, we just want to make sure we get it all written down, what we understood. That way it's a good way to do it. The other thing, I believe Ron White promised, to come back with a organizational chart in a brief period of time, which would really eliminate a problem of creating a spot and then promoting somebody into it, which would, if we got them set under law somewhere, that might have to be ordinance, I don't know.
Yeah, and I believe he said he already has that, he just needed to send it to us, so we'll remind him to send it to the court.
Well, we need to review that, know how many slots it is,
Right.
what they are.
Yeah.
And I don't care what he calls them, he can do the deputies, corporals.
Yeah.
I've been in the military, you can be officer of the day, you know what I'm saying? I've done about it all. I'm an old guy and I've tracked a lot of stuff.
But on that note, I just want to make sure people realize how appreciative we are, Sheriff Quire and Ron White.
Oh, there's no
for taking
question.
the jail over and the job they're doing there, and I mean, we can't say enough good things about it.
You cannot say enough.
And Judge, that was one of the things that came out of our meeting the other day, was asking you at the appropriate time to do
Yeah.
a resolution of respect for our employees, because they've helped us out a tremendous amount
Absolutely.
at the jail. And again, we're trying to clarify and fix some problems with some language and
Yep.
otherwise, so.
Understandable.
If I can, I'll continue on this trend. Mr. Tanner already kind of got one here with me, but I'd like to see if we can schedule another jail task force for March 5th, I think, and if we could, then ask Mr. Wyatt to submit that organizational structure to us by the end of this month, so we could consider it at that meeting, and amongst some other.
I don't think there should be a problem, because I'm
Other
almost
things.
positive he already has it.
Yeah, I think he's sort of, and it's reflecting, we talked the other day, sort of reflecting the budget changes and
Yeah.
the diminishing of the number of
Positions,
slots.
I believe, yes.
So,
Yeah.
sort of out of the meeting the other day, we had some more discussion about the jail and some of the operations, and particularly around the water. So I wanted to offer I suppose a motion to ask that in the mission to protect county property, life, and safety, we'd like to task the Franklin County Fire Department with regular, if that's monthly or whatever, testing of any county-owned fire hydrants, including those at the jail facility.
As far as just flushing them?
Testing, flushing.
Yeah, I thought they were going to handle that in-house. I thought the maintenance director said he was comfortable doing that.
Just want to put it on someone's radar
Yeah.
that happens permanently. They
Yeah.
said they opened them up and they ran rust
Yeah.
for 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm surprised they got them open.
and we were surprised that they were our responsibility on our property
Yep.
the other day. So we wanted to make that request that we asked the folks who do that obviously already to include those. And if there are any others, if we could take a small survey, I'm fairly certain there's one out at the park at Lakeview that might be sort of the similar situation that's ours. I don't know, maybe
Chief?
Brewer can speak to that. But
Speaking on that hydrant at the park, I know that one's plant board hydrant. Should
Okay.
be. Plant board maintains and operates on their own hydrants.
Well, you can, this came up in that meeting Tuesday. Those two hydrants I think it's two, is that
At the
correct?
jail, huh?
At the jail, two, they're on our side of the meter.
Yes,
So they're our responsibility?
they were probably installed as part of a private fire protection system.
So
That's not uncommon.
it's the, what it would be the county, which is Fiscal Court, or the jail, or somebody's responsibility to flush those and make sure they're working. Or would that fall under them, or us, or you, or who?
It has never fallen under the fire department in the past. You know, we test all of the hydrants annually for all the other water districts that we have contracts with, but we've never done anything for any private systems, including the jail.
Well, it's a public system because it's owned by the county.
Correct, I mean, it's a protection system that's designed for that facility, is what I'm referring to as a private facility, or private hydrant. So there's no water district that oversees that hydrant. That is on the owner's responsibility side of the meter.
which is why I'm requesting that our fire department become that.
And I'm sure,
that
I mean, we
entity to
could,
take care of it.
we could work with the maintenance director out there if he has any questions on, you know, if he's comfortable testing the hydrant. Basically, the main thing is make sure you flush it and it operates. We do them annually, and greasing the caps. That's pretty much all there is to it.
There is one more question for you on this, and they said they let them run, 5 minutes? 3 minutes, I can't remember. How long do you normally flush a hydrant out to call it sufficient?
It depends on, there's multiple factors. There's the size of the line, there's, you know, what type of hydrant it is as far as the size of the hydrant. You know, you want to just basically flush it, make sure that you have clean, clear water coming through it.
So that's not you don't worry about doing it 10 minutes or 5 minutes, it's whenever you think it's done.
Typically, as long as it flushes, I can go back and double check to see if there's any specific standards on a private hydrant system or anything. I'm not sure what size line is run over there. I assume it's a minimum of a 6 inch.
I have no idea.
And I think that's what the mechanical company had told them, basically, there's no magic number.
Yeah, it's just,
when it
you
starts
just
running
flush
clear,
it, and mainly
shut
you're
it
just
off.
testing the operation of it.
Yeah.
You can, you know, we test them to get our flows per gallons per minute, gallons per minute for all our hydrants, so we can chart that for our response, but, you know, there's nothing that the jail.
So it's a gallon per minute response regardless.
There's not a requirement. I mean, there may have been when that system was put in, but I mean, that's many years old. We just test it for our records, so we know if this hydrant flows this much and this one flows this much, it may be worth an extra half-mile drive to get through this really good hydrant.
Thank you, Chief.
Couple of things, Judge, if I can. Under KRS 441-105, there's a clause that talks about asking the jailer to submit quarterly reports to the Fiscal Court, and it specifically states concerning the physical condition of the jail, the number of jail personnel, personnel needs, and other matters requested by the court. Given that other matters that the court is creating, and in our last meeting, we discussed fully defining that and setting a schedule to give to the jailer or the acting jailer that is the request of this body. So into sort of an attempt to create a standard operating procedure, if you will, I just wanted to ask the members of this body if you have any items that are specific that you would like to see quarterly answered from the jail, if we could submit those maybe to the judge or Jack for us to have at our next fiscal or jail task force to create a standard
You said that's
reporting
KRS
period.
though? I mean, have you looked on the jailer's website at all? Because if that would be a standard KRS, you would think there would be a template out there of some kind that's required.
I've not seen anything in any of my research.
Okay.
And I know I asked the jailer previously about this, if he
Yeah.
could get some things. So I'm kind of imagining, given the budget cycle that we have a January, April, October, and July and October 1st report to this court, which might include things like requests about raises and promotions, which might also include the jail population and the terms, the length of stays, whether they've already been arraigned or facing conviction or whatever else we might want to include. So, I'm asking you all to come up with a listing to put together, and we'll create a standard report that we would like to see every month out of the jail in the future, so.
Who would we send it to?
Is Jack, would that be okay to send to
I
you?
would send it to Jack and we can compile it.
That'd be fine.
And honestly, Ron would probably be a good person to input on that as far as they see all the data. I mean, he might say you need X, Y, and Z. I mean, but he's there to help, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we discussed it in our task force
Yeah.
about bringing that up, so. Final thing on the jail before I switch over, I believe, is we have a 3C health contract that's coming up for renewal in June, and the word from Mr. White in our task force the other day was that the current company told us we maybe should look at a bid situation, or we may want to consider a bid. So I'm wondering if we can have that contract submitted again, maybe to the whole court, the current contract, and we can have questions ready to give some depth and some review at our next task
I
force meeting.
remember him talking about how happy he was with them, and I guess talking to them. The one thing I remember, and I'm just questioning now, that I remember as far as bidding, and Squire Dykes has brought this up, is health, mental health. Because they told us in that meeting that we would probably do better covering that ourselves. So.
Well, all they're doing is handing out medication.
Yeah, right. And so, but they were very
That's the
open
only
about it, and they
goal.
said, you might do better just
Yep.
taking care of this on your
Yep.
own. So I think it's probably warrant of another meeting with them.
Well, and why I'm saying, if there's any concerns that are folks outside of the task force, perhaps, let's
Yeah.
compile them, and let's talk about
Yeah.
how we can do that, because that's coming up fairly quick. If we're going to go to bid, then we should be talking about that next month, right? About before budget time, and what that's going to be, and what missing services there are perhaps that some of us want to see, so. That's all for the jail. I have a couple more if you want me to keep rolling, or if anyone else has anything. Andrew, can I sent Andrew a couple of photos, if he wouldn't mind to put up. I wanted to bring your all's attention to a problem area that I see that I'm concerned about, just liability for the court and, future access of this. So this is Benson Valley, the county-owned boat ramp there that we were able to have developed out of a federal grant in partnership with Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife years ago, right? So every time it floods, every spring, this was yesterday that I went out and took some photographs, we put this little barricade across. Go back, Andrew, that's a different one. We put this barricade across, and it concerns me we don't have any fences or anything else up. Back last spring, we had an adjoining property who I was concerned was on our property cutting trees and doing some other debris removal, burning some things that I felt like was on our property. So I kind of brought it up at that point. So I'm just asking if we can maybe consider surveying our property again, because I'm sure that old pins and things have probably washed away or been disturbed in years past. And I would really like us to consider putting some kind of more secure gate across that when flooding problems arise, and fencing around the property as well.
Road Department put a couple posts there and a chain across there.
It'd make it look a lot more attractive to put maybe a black rail fence.
As far as that complaint that came in last year with that guy next door, we did go down there and had the surveyor find the pin. He was over a little bit, but then fixed what he did, but it was very cordial. He didn't mean to be.
Well, I know we had a vehicle that was, I believe, stranded there last year in some of the spring and got flooded out. They left it, it was there,
Yeah.
it says it's not supposed to be there overnight, but still yet, these things happen, and I'm just concerned about the liability of that. And Andrew, if we can have the next photo too, this is Snow Hill, and I've always been concerned about the same thing. This was also yesterday, so you can see the difference in the water levels. But a couple of years ago, we had a swiftwater rescue there that we just about lost those folks. We got them just in the nick of time as the car went down the stream. This shows on all of our maps that it's a legal right-of-way through the stream. And I think it's a really neat one. I always usually drive people through here, and it blows their minds. And I brought a company from out of town here one time and drove them through, and they ended up spending their holiday in the creek because they got to see this. So it's an asset, but I'm concerned again about some of the liability with this. And I'd like us to kind of button up what exactly this crossing is, responsibilities, private property, parameters, some of those kinds of things. So I just thought I'd bring that up for consideration too, since the water is spring water, spring flood times here, right? So.
Tracy.
Squire Wisman, on the property that you spoke of in regards to beside the boat ramp, that issue's been going on for several terms. I know the judge has turned it in. I've turned it in multiple times. I agree, it probably does need to be surveyed, probably does need to be cut off. I know if you go on the PVA map, it looks like he's encroached on it a whole lot more than 1 or 2 traffic spots. So I would agree with that 100%, especially knowing that that's a federal grant and it's not supposed to be touched. So I would agree with that.
Yeah, that type of grant, we can get ourselves in some hot water if we're not actively protecting
So
our
are you all
spaces.
talking about
And again,
just,
it's been going on
yeah, I know,
for
but let's look at the picture there. So you're cutting that left property line down there and then potentially put a fence or something up there in the trees?
I don't know if it'd be a fence or some sort of cable to allow water to run, but something,
Yeah.
Again, because it's my understanding, like I said, it goes back to Squire Goins when he was on,
Yeah.
that property's not supposed to be disturbed.
Robert, when we had them go out there, and I'm sorry, and I know it's been a long one, but when we had them go out there, did they repin that? I remember we looked at that, we went down there, I'm just trying to help me remember. We haven't done that yet, have we?
No, sir, there was difficulty finding that line and those pins.
Okay.
Because of all the repeat flooding and
Yeah.
sediment that gets deposited. So
And earthwork may have disturbed some of the locations.
possibly because the marina historically dredges on the backside of their docks. And they've done that forever.
So
as
if you
far
could
as
go
I-
ahead and add that to our surveyors and see if we can't reestablish the pins down that one
Yes.
property line,
Yeah,
please.
so that was part of his task, to pin the entire property there.
Oh, he did?
Well, that was his task, and when I followed up with him, he talked about how difficult it was, and he was having to go all the way up to Kentucky Avenue and start from there to try to work his way back.
Yeah.
So, and as it relates to this property, if I could, as Squire noted, it was a FEMA buyout. So the stipulations on a FEMA buyout, just that you cannot make any permanent improvements. You can have a park-like setting, it's allowable to have picnic tables there or something of that nature, but you just cannot make permanent improvements to it. So that's just, because the county owns many of those, often, a lot of them down Benson Valley Road. So those are opportunities, if the county ever chose to, you could make passive parks out of those areas. Or not, but,
Okay.
it is allowable under those rules.
All right, thank you.
And some additional grant funds that were associated, and we have some agreements with Fish and Wildlife, as my understanding, for this space particularly, that we have some obligations, right? One other thing. I think this is my last one. I just want to bring up to you, Judge. I talked to you about this the other day, and I just kind of wanted to get the court to help me out. I believe I've done a survey of most everyone that we don't have any problems, except for in my district, of people having access to public water. I have 2 streets.
Robert and I had a meeting about that today.
Okay.
But go ahead, if you want to go ahead and fill them in.
I have, I know Squire has probably one that is disconnected, but I have 2 roads that were not provided water service in the 1980s when it was done, but have subsequently had some development. I have a house that's being built currently. I have probably 6 houses, maybe 7, that would like to have public water, but it's fairly great expense. I've met with North Shelby, who provides that water, and have asked them to provide us a quote for, an amount or what the process would be to provide water to those folks. But it's my concern that we need to have some in-house design done a little bit through Robert's department that I was hoping to authorize through you all to start moving forward, because I have these folks ready to sign up tomorrow if we can get them water, and I think that's...
Robert's been in communication with them also, so he's aware of it, so yeah. Squire Tracy.
Judge,
I've got one, obviously, and it's off Rocky Branch Road, that I'm aware of. And I think it comes down to cost. It's going up a hillside, and they'd have to rent a rock saw and things of that nature. I don't know if that would fall under that umbrella, but if it would,
There's some funding right now through the state, right, about infrastructure, particularly around water access, so I thought it prime time for us to look at it and try to get that, so.
We are. All right, Squire Sebastian.
Well, thank you, Judge. Would it be possible for the court, I know our community development specialist, has done just a masterful job of submitting grant applications since she's been here. Would it be possible for her to, put a list together just to share with the court what grants we've received out of that work?
Yeah.
Just so the court has an understanding of, yes, we've received something to buy, equipment, so that it's just helpful for everybody and they're mindful of the things that
I
we've
think it's
received.
a great idea, and I think she'd be happy to do it.
I think would be a good thing for all of
Yeah.
us to understand, because she's working really
She
hard.
is, she's doing a great job.
I have a question about, we had talked last year about reviewing a number of the contracts and that we have with the county, because some of them are back from the 90s, and that's been pointed out to us in meetings repeatedly, so just checking the status of that. So I just don't want to let that go by the wayside. And then I know I asked about working on that pauper burial policy that we have, because if you remember, we addressed that as part of this court, and it's something that I don't know how it fell through the cracks, but still haven't seen it. So if I need to work on it, I'm on it, and it'll be done.
So do we not have any, I thought we were just
We
needing to
have
add money to the fund.
We have something that was developed 3 or 4 judges ago,
Okay,
and it is that old.
outdated.
And some of the judges have served multiple terms, so that
Yeah.
just tries to demonstrate how old that policy is when it was put in place. So
Okay.
I don't mind working on that, if that's the direction we want to go in, and you'll have something.
If you would like to, I
I'm
think
on
that
it,
would be, if
and
everybody's
that
okay
way
with that.
it'll be done.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Squire Tracy.
Kind of give us an update,
Yes,
if you don't care.
absolutely. And I talked to them, and they're gung ho, and, yeah.
I know they'll be presenting here before too long.
I talked to Kimberly about coming and kind of give us kind of an update of where they're at and stuff, yes.
Thank you.
Yep, no, absolutely, that's good. She was happy to come and do it, it'll be fine, yeah, 28, it'll be great.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Squire Blackburn.
Robert, would you mind just giving a tiny update about where we're at with the comp plan?
Yes, thank you so much. So, in terms of committees, the advisory committee has blessed chapters 1 and 2 of the document. They meet again March the 6th. We will be going over chapters 3 and 4. That would leave 5 and 6 still outstanding. At the March Planning Commission meeting, which is the second Thursday of March, on the agenda will be the goals and policies that have been blessed by the advisory committee. So that's a very large step forward.
And are those on the Distilled Together website right now?
Yes, they are.
So they're out there for the public to see. Everybody can go to Distilled Together and see what's been drafted up to this point.
Yes, and so the Planning Commission will hold a public hearing to consider those goals and policies, and of course, anyone in the public has the opportunity to come and provide testimony on that portion of the document. The steering committee has met twice in the last 2 weeks, I believe. They have agreed amongst themselves that basically an executive summary or report will be presented to the Planning Commission as it relates to the goals and policies, just showing that, it went from the advisory committee to the steering committee on to the Planning Commission, so that shows that the committees are receiving and reviewing all documents before it comes to the Planning Commission and ultimately to the legislative bodies. So we are, last week, the Planning Commission approved change order number 1 to the consultant's contract. It was a net zero change order in the amount of $15,000. Exhibit A of that contract is for the update of the comprehensive plan. It has gone over as a result of additional revisions unanticipated, as well as some additional public outreach. And so the consultant recommended and was comfortable with asking for $15,000 to come out of Exhibit B of the contract, which is the rewrite of the development regs, and transfer that over to the comprehensive plan. And so that was approved unanimously at the at the Planning Commission. So the steering committee's goal is to wrap this process up by June the 30th, that the county treasurer and the city finance director would be extremely pleased if we could do that. So that's just a target goal. Doesn't mean if we go longer that there's a problem, but we like to try to help those folks out if we can, so.
Thanks so much.
Yes, sir, thank you.
So Robert, you intend, last time you gave us an update, you said something about, you were thinking it was going to take even longer than that. There was a couple more delays, so you think we're back on track for June 30th?
Fingers crossed we are. Chapters 1 and 2 were reviewed quite quickly and blessed by the advisory committee, and we're hopeful that chapters 3 and 4 will go just as smoothly. Getting through the future land use map took an extremely long amount of time, but the committee is working really hard on the language in these chapters and are coming prepared with, whether it be grammar edits or just suggestions for improvements. At the last advisory committee meeting, there were some changes that everyone agreed to that actually took out unnecessary language. It just got too wordy. So I applaud the members of that committee, and they're truly, rolling their sleeves up and going through that document in its entirety. So I think we're at a good pace now, I think.
Thank you, Robert.
Can you reiterate the March date to look at chapters 3 and 4? I just missed it quickly.
March 6th.
6, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, we ready to go vote? All righty, away we go. This is our February 15th, 2024 voting session. Clerk, please call roll.
Squire Sebastian.
Here.
Squire Blackburn.
Present.
Squire Dykus. Here. Squire Tracy.
Here.
Squire Tanner.
Here.
Squire Whitson.
Present.
Judge Moeller.
Present. Thank you. Authorization for approval of minutes from regular meeting of January 24, 2024.
So moved as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to receive partial payment of 2023 excess fees, county clerk.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to declare a duty weapon as surplus for the purpose of purchase for a retiring deputy sheriff.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve surplus vehicles for trade-in purposes and/or gov deals, auctions, sheriff.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the filing of an application to Kentucky Department of Library and Archives Local Records Grant Program for the Franklin County Regional Jail.
So moved. Second.
Did you get that, clerk?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve a resolution authorizing that any cost overruns for the Project Community Development Block Grant CDBG 22-042 will be borne by the Farmdale Sanitation District.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to approve a resolution authorizing the filing of an application to U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Federal Emergency Management Agency, Assistance to a Firefighters Grant Program for the Franklin County Fire Department.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to award a bid to WCM General Contracting and Construction, sole bidder for a new building at the Franklin County Animal Compost Facility.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to enter into an agreement with Bluegrass Area Development District for land use planning services and technical assistance relating to development.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Authorization to hire Cameron Hortonberry as light equipment operator / truck driver.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Judge. Oh, you're recused.
Okay. Clerk, did you get that? Squire Tracy recuses himself. Authorization to approve budget transfers.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. First reading of amendment number 3 to ordinance number 7-2023 related to the budget for fiscal year 2023 to 2024. No vote will be taken at this time. Authorization to receive treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Payment of claims. Is there a motion to deny any payment of claims? Seeing none, let the record reflect claims are to be paid. Authorization to approve board appointment of Mary Beth Robinson to Peaks Mill Water District with a term ending December 31, 2024.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Where does she live?
And we thank her and we thank Raven for her time on that board also. Authorization to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. We're adjourned. Thank you.